Allergies in dogs, specifically canine atopic dermatitis, very, very common. In terms of what the more common signs are, any of you who have allergies or personally or with dog allergies are aware of them, we've got these dogs that are chronically itching and scratching. They can have recurring ear infections. They may be shaking their head with recurring ear infections. They'll be scratching, especially under their armpits, at their groin and here. It can become very red, very inflamed, so it's not uncommon. We would have dogs come into the clinic, I'd lift up their leg, look at their groin, it'd be very raw and red because they've been chronically scratching at that. We'll see hair loss, sometimes symmetric, sometimes very generalized. The skin can get very sort of black and thickened, especially under those armpits, or the back of the legs. You'll see this black thicken as it becomes more chronic and ongoing. There can be excessive dandruff and really skin flakiness. You can get quite that strong odor and smell. And you've got these secondary skin infections. You might have yeast that are overgrown. We'll see these guys that are chronic licking their paws. So the white dogs will have staining, but they're chronically licking at their paws, their front feet more often, but also their back feet. They can also have inflammation around their anus and be dragging their bum or excessive anal licking. Just so many areas of their body are just so inflamed. So the most common one is called atopy or canine atopic dermatitis in terms of the more common environmental allergy. And what it is, it's a predisposition for a huge percent of these dogs become sensitized and to react to just normal environmental allergens, things that are normally in environment. So it can be for instance, these little house dust mites, which live in our den or pets' den or throughout our house. We have millions in our houses. Your dog can get sensitized to that. All these different environmental pollens, from grasses, the things that are pollinating throughout their environment where you live and your dogs live. They can get sensitized to that. So small amounts of that will trigger this whole generalized immune response. Hello, Lewis. In particular, we're of the belief now that it's okay, Lewis. This is definitely, as much as it is that they're going to inhale it, it's really important is how it gets into them topically. So it lands on the surface of their skin. They have their skin barrier isn't as effective as repelling, for instance, these pollens. It's able to penetrate in through the skin and trigger this allergic response. Specifically, I've talked about using honey for allergies. The rationale goes that honey contains small amounts of some of the allergens, for instance the pollen, that those bees are landing on those flowers and that's how they're producing the honey in the first place. It contains small amounts of those allergens within the honey. So the thought is kind of like desensitization, where we will go ahead and expose your dog to minute amounts of what they are allergic to. Over a period of time, their body develops a tolerance for it, their immune system normalizes, and then they don't overreact to those normal things that exist in the environment, be it house dust mites, be it all the variety of pollens. I went ahead and did a bit of a review on it. I've noticed that recently there's been a number of articles that have discounted that. There's been articles, for instance, in a whole variety of newspapers saying, don't use it doesn't work, etc., etc. So really discouraging people, and in particular that suffer from things, such as allergic rhinitis, more commonly known as hay fever, where spring comes, they have runny eyes, runny nose. All they can do is reach for, some of those over-the-counter antihistamines, anything that's just going to relieve their symptoms, or go see their doctor, get some of the more stronger anti-allergy medications. They've been encouraged, don't bother using it. It's not going to work. Yet interestingly, there was a study about 2 years ago that had some great results. So this was the paper, and their conclusion was ingestion of honey improves the symptoms of allergic rhinitis, a randomized placebo-controlled study. To start, for the first 4 weeks, all 40 of them had the same thing. They were given an antihistamine called loratadine, and they measured the response, and they both equally improved over that 4-week period. Then after that 4-week period, 20 of the sufferers, 20 of the clients took honey. They took it at 1 gram per kilo, which on average, for instance, so I'm 75 kilograms, that would mean about 5 tablespoons. So it's a fair amount. It's considered a relatively high dose. So 20 of those took that equivalent of 4 to 5 tablespoons of honey a day, and the other 20 just took corn syrup. So it's a really good measurement. And they followed up that for the next 4 weeks. So after that 8-week period, only the group, the sufferers that took the honey for that 4 weeks, showed continuous improvement. So there's 100%, there's a measure of improvement after that period of time. And then 4 weeks even after that, they measured the clients again. And the same group, the 20 that were on that honey for that 4-week period, showed additional improvement. So it actually sustained them. So their conclusion from that study was there was clear evidence to show the beneficial effect of using honey. So based on that study, I mean, I would strongly encourage you, if you've got a dog that has atopy, they've got allergic dermatitis or this environmental allergy, to consider using it. I mean, I think the big key point is it needs to be for 4 weeks. We need to be looking at an appropriate dose, so somewhere around, the 1 gram per kilo. So a couple of things here. First of all, if you're going to use honey, you want it to be local, preferably local and non-pasteurized, because you need to get the allergens that are in your area that are potentially triggering your dog. So here's some local honey from someone that has bees in my area, local, unpasteurized. So this is ideal. In terms of the amount, if I'm going to treat someone like Lewis, I would be having you guys look at about the similar dose. So if we're looking at 1 gram per kilo, and I said to me I'm 75 kilos, that works out to 5 tablespoons. Somebody like Lewis, I mean, he himself, we're saying he's about 90 pounds. I estimate him about 40 kilos. So he's about half of mine. So he'd be looking at half the number. I was 5, he's about 2 to 2.5 tablespoons. To round it up for simplicity's sake, I would have you look at giving 1 tablespoon for 50 pounds of dog body weight daily. So something like Lewis, he'd need 2 tablespoons. And what I have you do then is take that honey, dilute it in some warm water, and then go ahead and squirt that into your dog's mouth. So what that would mean is, here's a good tablespoon of the honey here. So it's a bit of a heaping, a bit more than a tablespoon. So that's 15 mils or 1 tablespoon. And just want to dilute that in the water here. So I'm going to put in 2 tablespoons just so you can see how much that is. And the reason I'm suggesting is, not just mixing in the water, but squirting into your dog's mouth. Then they're getting it. The issue is you could pour it into their water, pour it onto their food. Some dogs would readily consume it, and if that's easier, go ahead and just do that. Some of those labs that are food driven, they love their food. They'll like the additional sweetness of the honey. So there's 1 tablespoon. Here's a 2nd tablespoon of the honey. So I've just mixed it in. I'm mixing it with warm water. So I probably have another 3 to 4 tablespoons of warm water in there. So I just mix that up. Okay. And then we'll give a little sample to Lewis and I'll show you how you do it. So in treating Lewis, assume Lewis had an allergy. I wanted to try the honey for 4 weeks. As I said, he'd be getting 2 tablespoons a day for 4 weeks. I'd be assessing to see if it's being beneficial. There you go, Lewis. Just drawn up some of that honey water mixture here. So there's some of it here. What you could do, just get yourself a big 60cc syringe. Every clinic's going to have one. You could also just get one at your local pharmacy. So that would be enough to draw it all up in one big syringe. And then just squirting open at the back of his mouth. Squirt it into the side of his mouth. You can sort of see it there. Then it goes down pretty easily. Once again, thanks for watching this video. If you have yet to do so, go ahead and click that link in the box above, and that'll subscribe you to my channel. And then you can go ahead, click that link in the box below, and I can send you my free books and videos on how to treat your dogs at home with my top natural remedies.